All right, and welcome to this update. We're going to be talking about the severe weather potential later tonight and tomorrow here in this 5+ video update. And as you can see, we are live with you, and I love getting to do this and that we have the ability to do this. Typically in the regular newscast, we only get a couple minutes to talk about any given risk or any sort of forecast information, but with this, we're able to kind of go through in more detail the severe weather risk coming up tonight into tomorrow. Now, we know that it's been a busy day. We've been talking about this risk, and you may be wondering, well, what risk? Just because if you look outside, it's pretty much clear out there. Looking at our cameras across the board behind the scenes, we got clear skies in northwest Arkansas and just a couple clouds here and there. The reason we don't have any sort of storms right now is because we have a strong capping inversion, or the cap that we've been mentioning, that's overhead. And what that is it's a layer of stable warm air just above the surface, separating warm, unstable air from the surface that's rising and preventing it from mixing with cool, dry air aloft. When you get that mixture, it typically leads to storm development. But when you have this cap, it acts as a lid. It keeps that air from rising further into the atmosphere, mixing with that cool, dry air. Then you really don't get any sort of development. The difference is we have that cap now, but later on this evening, especially further to the west, notice around Tulsa, Ponca City, Oklahoma, in that 2 out of 5 risk, there's going to be a little bit more in what we call forcing out there, or a lifting mechanism, meaning that these storms are going to be able to overcome the cap further to the west. And when they make their way towards our area, we're still looking at the questionable risk of, are we going to see storms? And if we do, are they going to maintain their strength? So that leads us into the severe weather zone for the area. And as you can see, there is a large chunk of our viewing area in a 1 out of 5 marginal risk. That's in the green. Some areas are in a 2 out of 5 for northwest Arkansas, northeast Oklahoma. Now, it doesn't include everyone, and we are going to stress this for tonight. Not everyone is going to see storms. And if we see storms, not everyone's going to see necessarily severe weather. We're going to watch those storms that fire off to the west, and when we're going to see that activity move in, that cap may be able to weaken those even further once they make their way into our area, but it's questionable as to how far we get that into our area. So taking a look at the individual hazards, we're going to break that down. There is a low but not zero tornado risk, especially for areas to the north and west and in northeast Oklahoma. That's what you see here. Low but not zero tornado risk. As we make our way into the other categories, we're at an elevated risk in some spots for hail, even some damaging winds. Now, we are looking, some of the model runs are showing that a couple of storms may clip portions of our northern counties, northwestern counties in northwest Arkansas, northeastern Oklahoma as well. Those may pose a greater risk if they hold together, but the biggest thing that we're talking about here is if we get those storms. So let's take a look at the coverage, and we're going to show you overall it's not going to be widespread severe weather, anything like that. We're talking a handful of storms at most that move through the area. These may produce maybe some quarter-size hail, maybe some winds 50, 60, maybe some 65-mile-per-hour winds with the strongest storms if they reach those more intense levels. But overall, just a few storms here and there may create an issue if we get anything at all. Now that leads us to timing. Timing tonight could be anywhere between around 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., to 4 a.m. in the darker shaded blue areas. And then for the rest of us, right around 11 o'clock this evening to about 5 a.m. overnight into early Sunday. So it's going to be kind of a broad timing, but that's because we're going to be watching those storms make their way into the area. There could be some lingering shower, maybe an isolated thunderstorm or two into tomorrow morning. Overall, widespread severe weather is not anticipated, but it is something that we're watching here in the 5 News Impact Center. So here's a look at the storm fuel. And as we head into overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, notice there is a fair amount of instability. This is what we call CAPE, and that is what fuels the storms. When you have higher levels, it leads to stronger storms. Overall, we are in the low to moderate category overnight tonight into tomorrow. But once we head into tomorrow afternoon, that's when our second risk moves in, and then we start to see more of those high levels push into the area right around mid-afternoon tomorrow, and that's going to lead us into our risk for tomorrow afternoon. Now, overnight tonight, headed back to the risk that we have for tonight. Notice we've got a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms that linger, and then as we head into early tomorrow morning, these are going to be still moving into portions in the area. They clear out by right around mid-morning tomorrow. So as you're headed out to church, if you're headed out tomorrow morning for any activities, you may want an umbrella or a raincoat in the car just in case, just because some of these showers and thunderstorms may be lingering across the area for that morning commute to wherever it is that you're going. We're going to have a little bit of a break, but then as we head into tomorrow afternoon, more storms. Here's a second model. This is our second short-range model, and notice that it has some activity that pushes into the area later this evening, and it holds it fairly well together. Now, both of these models are showing that we could have the potential for storms, but they're kind of in a feud as to whether or not these stay together. Either way, it looks like some of us will see some rain, but if these storms hold together, there may be more of a severe weather risk for portions of the area in terms of that hail and damaging wind risk tonight. So as we head into tomorrow, that's our second risk for this system. And this is what we have a weather impact alert that we're declaring for tomorrow, just because there is the potential for more strong severe storms. And that cap, it looks to be a little bit weaker in compared to what we had today. So storms may be able to overcome that cap with daytime heating tomorrow. So because of that, weather impact alert, severe storms are possible. Again, not everyone may see strong to severe storms, but it's just something that we're going to be watching. What you'll need to do is keep it here with the 5 News Weather Impact team. Download the 5 News app. We're tracking this very closely. We'll let you know the very latest, and just stay tuned for updates. This is another tricky forecast that we're watching. So unfortunately, this is one of those setups where there is the potential for storms, and the ingredients are coming together that we are watching that very closely. But at the end of the day, there is a potential that we either do see storms or we don't. So we want to get our messaging across to let you know this is a tricky forecast. Now, don't downplay it when we say that there's a chance that there may not end up being storms. You have to kind of respect this risk, just because we have a fairly decent risk across the area in terms of all the ingredients coming together. It's just a matter of how our storm's going to evolve. So keep it here. We'll let you know the very latest. So here's a look at that risk for Sunday. Now, some of the areas are included in a 3 out of 5, and compared to this morning's run or this morning's outlook, that orange area continues to shift a little bit to the west, more into the river valley. And what this means is the Storm Prediction Center doesn't necessarily do these categories based off of intensity. It's more based off of coverage. So when you start to see these higher risks, that means that there is a little bit more confidence in storm activity in any certain areas. So when we're seeing those risks, we're keeping an eye on it. It is starting to shift a little bit further to the west. Not a guarantee that your area sees storms, but it is something to watch and be mindful of. The rest of us are in a 2 out of 5 and a 1 out of 5 for the further west that you go, but still watching the storm potential tomorrow there in the orange shaded areas. Breaking down those risks overall, the most significant risk that we see tomorrow is hail, and we are in what is a hatched shaded area. When you get those hatched shaded areas, it's indicating that the Storm Prediction Center has enough confidence for a significant hail threat. And when we're talking significant, that's typically around 2-inch diameter hail or larger. Now, if we get any sort of discrete activity, that's going to be more likely with the more discrete storms that are going to be able to sustain those updrafts and hold those hailstones for longer. So hail is going to be the highest risk that we have on the board for tomorrow. There is a little bit more of a tornado risk as well, and when I say this, it's not to alarm you or frighten you or anything like that. It's still on the lower end. It's just that it's going to be a little bit better in terms of the risk compared to today for portions of our area, especially the further east that you go. And then we got the wind risk that's on the board as well. Some 60 to 70 mile per hour winds will be possible. So all hazards will be possible. Not a guarantee that your area sees these storms. But again, it's just something to be mindful of. And we're just letting you know, hey, we have this risk in place. We're watching it very closely. Don't be surprised tomorrow if you see storms, and don't be caught off guard. So it's just giving you an early heads up that there is a risk. Now, as we make our way into those risks, again, hail and wind look to be the primary risk for tomorrow. There is a risk, of course, for tornadoes, but it is still on the low side, so that's not going to be our main focus. We're still going to be watching for it, but overall, hail and damaging winds are going to be the primary risk. Some localized flooding could be possible with the heaviest downpours that we see as well. Now, here's a look at the Futurecast radar, and as we head into tomorrow afternoon, the models are kind of back and forth on coverage. We've been looking at this all day, and really hasn't been anything that's been sticking in terms of trends that are identical comparing the models. And as you can see, right around 4, 5, 6 o'clock, we're watching. There could be some showers and storms that develop further to the west. The models don't take it seriously when you see them in one given location. It's a forecasting tool. It's not perfect. It's not going to, highlight and say this is exactly what's going to happen. It's a tool that helps us forecast. So when we see this, there's going to be a lot more storms in central Arkansas, but we are watching that further to the west. There could be some storms in our neck of the woods that could be strong to severe due to the ingredients that we have in place. So right around tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening is what we're going to be looking at for that risk. Now, another thing that I have gotten a lot of questions for from students, friends, family, is the commute back to Arkansas tomorrow. So if you have a college student coming back to Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley, here's a look at what we've got. This risk doesn't only include us, it includes areas of the Midwest and into the Tennessee Valley, and you can see it does include portions of St. Louis, Cincinnati, Memphis, Central Arkansas. So if they're commuting back to Arkansas from these areas, they may encounter some storms if they're on the road, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. We had a couple of students reach out and ask about the risk for Central South Texas making their way back into up into Arkansas. The answer is there is the potential for storms. So if you're commuting back in the car, the best thing to do is have ways to receive alerts. So make sure that when you're driving, you have alerts enabled on your phone, and that do not disturb is going to hide those alerts. Just to be on the safe side if you're driving, just to let you know if you're headed towards a storm that's warned for hail, wind, tornadoes, whatever it is, just be on the safe side. Have those alerts enabled so that you're able to be notified if you're headed towards a storm. The other thing is to remember, if you do encounter hail, don't park under an overpass. That's incredibly dangerous, puts you and others at risk on the road. So just keep that in mind. If you do encounter storms, the best thing to do is, of course, pull over, find the nearest convenience store, gas station, something like that, that's a sturdy structure. See if you can shelter in there with them. And for students, just make sure that you let someone know where you're stopping on your way back if you encounter storms and you have to pull over. So that's just a word of advice on my end. So if you're commuting back, just keep in mind there could be some storms in any of these shaded areas that you see here for tomorrow, especially tomorrow afternoon for our neck of the woods into the evening. So just keep that in mind if you're commuting back for tomorrow. Now, let's take a look at that Futurecast radar across the state. Tomorrow afternoon, here's a look at the statewide view, and notice there is going to be a little bit better coverage in terms of that severe weather potential for north central Arkansas tomorrow evening. And then right around tomorrow evening, right around 9 o'clock, this model is projecting some more widespread storms from Jonesboro all the way down closer to the DFW Metroplex. So again, if you're commuting, just make sure that you have alerts enabled on your phone just to let you know if you're driving into any sort of severe weather. Now, we're not out of the woods quite yet. It is spring. And another thing that I know people are going to be asking about, I've already seen it on Twitter about a million times, is the risk coming up on Wednesday. Haven't showed it in the shows throughout the day just because I want to get through this risk that we have now and then focus on this later on. But I do want to highlight, just for those who are wondering, yes, there is a risk coming up for Wednesday. We're right in between the slight and the enhanced risk so far with that extended forecast. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean outbreak or any sort of significant severe weather potential for us quite yet. Of course, when we see this, there's going to be a lot of hype online and information that you're going to see across the board. We want to let you know, keeping a very close eye on it, but it is way too early to get into the exact details. We'll let you know the very latest. We're keeping an eye on everything, and there is a lot to focus on with these forecasts. So keep it here with the 5 News Weather Impact Team. We're watching all of these forecasts, risks, everything, you name it. We'll let you know the very latest, but just want to let you know there's, of course, going to be people wondering why I didn't mention this in the shows earlier for next week. Answer is we have enough of risks that we're going to be watching tomorrow. We don't want to confuse people, so I'll show it here, just let you know. additional risk coming up on Wednesday. Nothing to worry about yet. We'll get through this weekend system first. Then we'll let you know what to expect as we head further into the weekend and into early next week's shows. So keep it here. We'll let you know the very latest. Now, we're going to go ahead and start to wrap up here. I'll let you see another look at the extended 7-day planner before we go ahead and end this 5 News weather update. And the thing that we're watching is we have multiple rain chances. And even though there is the potential for maybe some impactful storms with this, I do want to highlight the good news. And that is that, A, not everyone's going to see the severe weather. Even though there is a risk, it doesn't guarantee that your area is going to be impacted. It just means that you need to be aware. So have ways to receive alerts. That's the 5 News weather, or that's the 5 News app. We'll send you alerts and information and let you know if we're live here on 5+. The other good news is we're going to have rain. We have been so dry recently, leading to that fire weather danger that we've been talking about nonstop for the last several weeks. Once we get more of this rainfall, it's going to help us to remove more of those burn bans across the area. We already saw a couple knocked out after yesterday's rain, and the good news is with any rainfall we get the next several days, that's only going to help us to get rid of that fire weather danger. So rooting for the rain. Hopefully we don't get anything in terms of impactful weather with severe weather. But if we could get any sort of rainfall out of that, that is going to be some good news there. Hopefully we can get rid of that fire weather danger. The other thing, too, kind of a roller coaster in temperatures the next couple of days across the area, bouncing back and forth between the 80s and the 70s. So welcome to spring. It's just that time of the year where we get to see these weekly systems that move in, and they're going to bring us rain and storm chances. It's not a guarantee that all of these systems we get through spring bring severe weather, but it is going to be a normal occurrence where we're going to be talking about at least weekly rain chances from systems, just because when you're in spring, it's a more active pattern. So watching these risks, of course, we'll let you know the very latest. Keep it here. We'll have shows coming up here this evening and tonight. And then, of course, I'll be back here with those forecasts and the forecast tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening as well. So if anything changes, we'll let you know. We got the team here in the house for the risk tomorrow as well. And we'll let you know if you need to watch the radar or any updates like that tomorrow with that storm potential. So keep it here. We'll let you know the very latest, keeping a very close eye on everything. Rain or shine, keep it here with 5. And yeah, make sure you tune into the shows later tonight.